Hi, welcome to that new section about right sizing, and this time we're going to talk about ECS instances. So ECS stands for Elastic Container Service, and this section should be quite easy to fix and to understand. Let's dive in. So first, ECS has two launch types, one for EC2 and one for Fargate. You can retrieve the EC2 here. So in EC2, you manage the underlying EC2 instances in your ECS cluster. You need to right size your instance types and sizes based on CPU, memory, network performance, and storage needs. So this is exactly like EC2 right sizing. But in the second launch type, Fargate, you are not managing those EC2 instances, but AWS handles the provisioning and scaling of the compute resource. You pay the exact amount of CPU and memory resources that your containerized application use, but you can right-size your task definitions. To retrieve your launch type, you can go directly to ECS service here, select the cluster and go to task section. Then you can look at the launch type column right here, and you can retrieve your launch type, if it's Fargate or EC2. You can also navigate to Building Service in the Build section and go to the Elastic Container Service. Select a region like here, and you can find here if it's EC2 or Fargate. And you can see that the compute savings plans here are covering 100% of my cost of Fargate. So that's why I got 0 here. But it doesn't mean that I cannot right size it and save money. Fargate deployment. So by default, ECS uses a rolling update deployment strategy. What is it? So example, you have 4 tasks here in your application version and you want to deploy a new version. Here, minimum 50% will retain, meaning 2 on 4 will move to version 2. And 2 of them will stay. And when your health check is working for those 2 new versions, then the other one will become version 2 and the deployment will be finished. So it replaces one task at a time, waiting for the new task to become healthy before replacing the next one. That way, there is zero downtime. And if the deployment fails, also ECS can automatically roll back to the previous stable version. The pricing of AWS Fargate service is pretty easy. So it's based first on OS and architecture here. So between Linux x86 and Linux ARM, you're gonna see a big difference in the price here between memory and CPU here. So it says that AWS Graviton 2 processors provide up to 40% better price performance over comparable x86 based instances for a wide variety of workloads. And then you're gonna pay for CPU and memory. CPU here and memory here. The more CPU you add, the more you're gonna pay. And you have to base those to the supported configurations just right here. So for example, if you select 2 CPU, the minimum value for memory will be 4 gigabytes and the maximum will be 16 gigabytes. You must take care of that supported configuration here to right size them. One example of right sizing. So if you go to the else section in ECS service, you can check if your service is over provisioned. Here, my CPU utilization is maximum 10% and my memory utilization is maximum 9% in the last 6 months here. So I might want to right size it. And you can go directly to Compute Optimizer to see your option. Often you have only one option here, so one recommendation, if you click on your instance, and you can see that it wants your CPU to be divided by 4 here, and your memory divided by 4. And you will save around this much. So this is 0 here because all my costs are covered by compute savings plans, but you can still save money. And this is the on-demand estimated monthly savings, so you can check also that one. And so you're going to save maybe in between of those two numbers. You can see in the diagrams here that the CPU utilization percentage will rise up and the memory utilization as well, which is what we want. To retrieve all your findings, you can go directly to Cost Optimization Hub service and filter your resource type by ECS service. You can also filter your recommended action here by right size. And you have to see the difference between here, current resource summary and recommended resource summary. So in the first example here, you're going to divide your CPU and your memory by 4. And in the second example here, you're going to divide your memory and CPU by 8. You can retrieve here the estimated savings percentage and the estimated monthly savings. And for both of those values, it's saying 0% and $0 because all my costs are currently being covered by compute savings plan. But you're going to still save money by right-sizing them. Right-sizing your ECS instances should be quite easy because of the rolling update deployment strategy and because by default there is no downtime in that strategy. So in AWS, simply go to ECS service and then task definitions section. You can select one task and click on create new revision. And then you can modify directly here the launch type if you want, the OS and architecture, and also the CPU and memory metrics.